Make no mistake, Vladimir Putin is now afraid. May 1, 2026. The scaling down of the May 9th Victory Day parade in Red Square is extraordinary, so much so that it demands serious attention. What was once a massive display of military power now appears reduced to something closer to a token event. This, remember, is meant to honor the sacrifice of some 26 million Russians during what they call the Great Patriotic War, known elsewhere as the Second World War. To cut it back so dramatically, reportedly due to an inability to defend Moscow from Ukrainian attack, is not just embarrassing, it is strategically revealing. For Vladimir Putin, it raises uncomfortable questions. This is, in part, because when Putin reintroduced military hardware to the parade in 2008, he framed it as a clear signal of strength, a warning to adversaries that Russia could defend itself. He was explicit, this was not saber-rattling, but proof of growing capability. That claim now rings hollow. There are two key issues here. First, the war in Ukraine is not going Russia's way. Russian forces are losing ground, and are suffering casualties at an unsustainable rate. Replacements, poorly trained and reportedly including ethnic Russian conscripts who are not supposed to be sent beyond Russia's borders, are being fed into the fight with little effect beyond inflating losses. This reality is no longer contained, knowledge of it is filtering back into Russia and fueling discontent. Second, Ukraine has shifted the battle space. This is no longer a conflict confined to the front lines. Ukrainian strikes are reaching deep into Russian territory at ranges up to 932 miles, targeting critical infrastructure. There are credible reports of significant damage to Russia's oil production and key air defense assets. Moscow appears unable to stop these attacks, and the economic consequences are beginning to bite. Against that backdrop, the reduced parade becomes more than symbolism, it is an admission of decline. Even after redeploying advanced air defense assets like the S-400 missile system away from the front lines, the Kremlin cannot guarantee the security of its own capital. Nor does Russia appear to have sufficient modern armor left to present a convincing show of strength. The museum pieces now in service would be an embarrassment. The decision to proceed with foreign guests and civilians in attendance, while limiting military display, is telling. It speaks volumes to priorities and vulnerabilities in Putin's disregard for his allies and his people. Discontent is no longer confined to fringe voices. Military bloggers and even senior military officers are increasingly vocal in their criticism of how the war is being conducted, and a major crackdown on social media and other independent internet platforms is underway. Contrast that with Ukraine's position. Under Volodymyr Zelensky, Kyiv projects confidence, striking targets deep inside Russia while expanding its domestic production of drones and missiles. Ukraine is not just fighting the war, it is shaping the future battlespace and building an industrial base that will outlast the conflict. Its experts are now in the Middle East, advising and offering hardware to protect against Iranian drones and missiles. This is a smart move and will help fund the rebuilding of Ukraine after the war. The strategic picture is shifting. For Putin, the options are narrowing. A ceasefire and a negotiated settlement may now represent his least worst outcome. But that will require pressure, particularly from European NATO members, applied with clarity and resolve. And just perhaps, King Charles III, on his barnstorming trip to the US, has managed to talk some sense into Donald Trump on Ukraine. If so, that might also help to bring the dictator in the Kremlin to the table for real. Ukraine's allies must help Kyiv exploit this promising but probably fleeting opportunity. By The Telegraph, story by Hamish de Breton Gordon, May 1, 2026.